Okay, so this is a summary video for today. Uh, an audience provoked me into talking about reptilians, about draconians, about interference, and I was busy with it even before he started. But through the evening, because I was talking about it and I was considering it, some stuff came up, and I felt not only obliged to myself but to the friends that are involved in this to say to create a summary, and it starts like this. I don't know about you, but I was raised in a society that has gradually became more fanatic, more nationalistic fanatic, more religiously fanatic. Israel with the settlers that came in the picture and took over the country in the 70s. It was a complex operation where in the 70s, especially in the late 70s, the decadence, by the way, started in beginning of the 70s after the 60s ended. And then the decadence came in a variety of ways. Israel was in war with the Arabic nations, and 73 was the worst wars of all. I was in the Suez Canal. I was not a warrior. I was not a fighter. I, I don't remember myself having a gun. I don't remember myself wearing the uniforms, but I was there. And one impression that I took from this war, and I remember, there were people sitting in the second or the third line where I was, and they were playing poker. And that one person, I remember, he was ready to pay with his house and with his wife. The general feeling was of death all over the place. I didn't see one dead, and I didn't see one bomb falling, or I did see some bombs falling, but not at that time, not at that war, anyway. But the certain spiritual influence of this war uh, kept going with me. It is so dark. And then later on, started the new religion movement in Israel that is based on a story of a rabbi, but they that lived in how not in Ukraine in Russia and Soviet Union. A story of a rabbi that they brought him up somewhat from oblivions, and they made an entire schooling after him, and people became religion. They converted to Judaism as if they were not Jews before. But anyway, they extremed their Judaism that went together very close with the settlers. The settlers came from New York, and they were paid by the Kabbalah naturally, and they were under what we call Chabad, that is the overall management of the evil establishment Israel, or part of it anyway. Then this Ukrainian rabbi came into here, and he's not alive, by the way. Israeli Judaism now it's concentrating very much around graves. They go to graves and they pray to graves, and I think that the graves of those people that they pray around are very important. So it's very much about death. And then you had what I so well. Many of the people that I met converted suddenly. They dropped off life of perhaps non-religious life or indifferent to religion. They became religion suddenly, and fanatic religion with these settlers together everywhere that they were. Since then, it's like what? It's like from the 70s until now. You count the years. They took over the country, and today all Israel is under this spell. Now I'd say the creatures. I don't want to call them people, but the creatures that organize all this hell here, they depend on people that are lower than them in spirit. The lower you go, the higher you go in the hierarchy, the lower they become in spirit. And those lower and lower in spirit, they are hybrid. Hybrid, you can say, draconians. It doesn't matter which type it is exactly, but the behavior, the draconian describes the sense of what is draconian, describes their power, and they were transmitting power into here from all sides, religiously, from the United States and different parts of the world, and people came here. And after the Holocaust, especially, most of the people were driven by fear. So the essence of Israel spiritually is fear. They overcome it in many ways. They're busy all the time. They're running around. They're too disturbed to really see what's going around here. They don't have connection. Don't have the positive sentiment with the land and with the people that live here. They are just brutally. It's a tyranny. It's a crazy military tyranny, and I lived and I grew into this. Altogether, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at what's going on in Washington. I know what's happening in Chimera, in Ukraine in general, and I'm looking at other places where the creatures that are spreading fear in many ways by control, by violence, by attacking people in different ways, and I described it before in a biological way, in chemical way. There's so much of it. There's no wonder that people are so scared that the only way that they get out of it, perhaps, or not the only way. Some people sing in Israel. They have parties and they have a good time and they don't mind about it. But the powerful, the more powerful, those who create this policy of Israel, this ruthless policy against Palestinians, against Muslims, whoever they are that interferes with their lives, but they are, and in fact, very much in fear. That interferes with their life, but they are, and in fact, very much in fear. So, for me, it's an attack. I look at it as a global attack on humanity by malevolent creatures. Wherever I look, I find them everywhere, and I find the people who are scared. Find them. Sometimes I find people that doing the dirty job and actually busy with killing people, having technology or having other means for killing people, and you can see them. They don't care about you. They care about you less than the weed in the grass in the field. So there was, it is a continuous inflicting fear into people's life and make them fearful to the extent that if they're exposed to it enough, they run around in the maze, they read the books, They will attack somebody. They will follow Netanyahu. Or they will follow another war criminal. Like all the politicians and most of the society that supports them, even if it's in the United States or here, are all responsible, if not guilty, for the continuation of this war situation, a fear situation, basically because they are fearful. And what they are fearful is an intervention, is an affliction, is an influence of a non-humans, a brutal, malevolent type group of great numbers of, not great numbers perhaps, but enough everywhere. They had rabbis and the politicians at the top, and all those people are going around with the conviction that they can tell others what to do and force them to do, and they debate how to handle other countries and so forth. They are fear-based people. They live in fear. And when I grew up, I met these people. I was thinking that they are innocent, but in fact they were innocent, but they were them turned crazy, or anyway, the religious people in Israel, this group especially, all of them are alcoholics. Beside this, but the strange combination of people that were shaken out of themselves. Perhaps they had bases. Their parents were immigrants. They came from the Holocaust, or they never had a land, and now they come here and they take over from everybody. They're so hysterical to grab and take everything for their advantage, the same the Americans do all over the world. So it's an attack on kind, and an attack on every individual, and the only way to encounter it is by balancing yourself. When you balance yourself, you can handle those energy, and you can go around. You can even retaliate and force them to withdraw. But there's so many evil beings in Israel, and there's so many evil beings I see on TV that are not really evil, more they are just following this trend of politics and this concept of, that grow out of fear and hysteria and ready to give up their lives. So eventually, I think that my conclusion is death itself is a result of constantly intimidating and abusing and killing and influencing in every way that they can, So if you become aware of it, it's a global, lethal, deadly attack on humanity. I mean, it's enough to eventually, or soon enough, or someday, at least I've got there where I can give them the answer, and this is the answer that I give them. Yeah, in fact, I'm busy with it more than this video, actually. But yes, I said what I wanted. I owed it to my friends who were victims, and they suffered, and many of them lost their lives in this, became victims of various type of attacks.